Well-being. Being well. Grief. Grief is a complex and deeply personal response to loss that varies widely in intensity, duration, and expression. While often associated with the death of a loved one, grief may also arise from other significant losses, including changes in identity, relationships, health, or life circumstances. There is no single or correct way to grieve. Rather, grief reflects an adaptive process through which individuals gradually adjust to the absence of what has been lost. One commonly referenced framework for understanding grief is the model introduced by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, which describes patterns often experienced during bereavement. These patterns, frequently referred to as denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance, are not sequential stages and should not be interpreted as a prescribed progression. Individuals may experience these responses in varying orders, revisit them repeatedly, or experience several simultaneously. Denial may initially serve as a psychological buffer against overwhelming reality, while anger can reflect frustration, helplessness, or perceived injustice. Bargaining often involves attempts to regain control or make sense of the loss, followed by periods of profound sadness or withdrawal as the reality of the loss is more fully integrated. Acceptance does not imply resolution or emotional closure, but rather a recognition of the loss and a gradual adjustment to living alongside it. Grief frequently manifests not only emotionally but also physically and cognitively. Common physical responses include fatigue, sleep disturbances, changes in appetite, and somatic discomfort, reflecting the body's response to sustained emotional stress. Cognitive effects such as difficulty concentrating, impaired memory, or decision-making challenges are also common and represent a normal aspect of the grieving process. Emotionally, individuals may experience a wide range of responses, including sadness, guilt, anxiety, numbness, or even relief, all of which are valid components of grief. Grief can also influence social behavior and interpersonal engagement. Some individuals may withdraw from social activities and relationships, while others may seek increased connection and support. Changes in routine, motivation, and social participation often reflect the effort required to process loss rather than a lack of resilience or capacity. Rituals and shared practices play an important role in grief adjustment. Memorial services, cultural rituals, and opportunities to share memories provide structure, validation, and communal support. These practices can help individuals acknowledge loss, express emotion, and feel less isolated in their experience. Grief does not follow a fixed timeline, and it is common for waves of grief to resurface long after the initial loss, particularly around anniversaries, holidays, or meaningful reminders. This recurrence does not indicate regression, but rather reflects the enduring emotional significance of the loss within a person's life narrative. Coping with grief often involves a combination of internal and external supports. Connecting with trusted friends, family members, or support groups can provide understanding and companionship. Professional support from therapists or counselors trained in grief work may be particularly helpful when grief feels overwhelming or interferes with daily functioning. Attending to self-care, maintaining basic routines, and allowing space for emotional expression through conversation, writing, or creative outlets can further support adjustment. While the intensity of grief often changes over time, the meaning of the loss may remain. By allowing grief to unfold at its own pace and seeking support when needed, individuals can integrate loss into their lives in ways that honor what was lost while continuing to engage with life. Grief reflects not weakness, but the depth of connection and the human capacity to love. Well-being. Being well. Overcoming judgments and psychological openness. Judgment refers to the tendency to evaluate people, behaviors, or activities through rigid or biased assumptions, often based on limited information, past experiences, or cultural conditioning. While judgment is a natural cognitive process, persistent or unexamined judgment can contribute to interpersonal strain, reduced empathy, and psychological rigidity. Overcoming judgment involves developing awareness, emotional regulation, and cognitive flexibility, allowing for more open, compassionate, and accurate understanding of others and oneself. A foundational step in reducing judgment is increasing self-awareness. Noticing when judgmental thoughts arise and identifying their emotional or situational triggers allows individuals to examine the underlying assumptions driving these reactions. Reflecting on how past experiences, beliefs, or insecurities may influence present evaluations helps separate historical conditioning from current reality. This awareness creates space for intentional response rather than automatic evaluation. Mindfulness practices further support the reduction of judgment by encouraging present-moment awareness without immediate reaction. Observing thoughts as transient mental events rather than absolute truths allows individuals to disengage from habitual evaluative patterns. Through mindful observation, judgmental thoughts can be acknowledged without being reinforced or acted upon, promoting greater emotional neutrality and psychological flexibility. Empathy plays a central role in overcoming judgment. Actively considering situations from another person's perspective, taking into account their background, emotions, and motivations, reduces reliance on stereotypes or assumptions. Empathic engagement, particularly through compassionate listening, fosters understanding rather than evaluation and supports more meaningful interpersonal connection. Education and exposure to diverse perspectives further challenge judgmental tendencies. Learning about different cultures, lifestyles, and belief systems broadens cognitive frameworks and reduces ignorance-based assumptions. Interacting with individuals from varied backgrounds provides experiential evidence that counters rigid generalizations and supports more nuanced understanding. Challenging stereotypes is another important component of this process. Questioning whether judgments are grounded in evidence or preconceived notions helps weaken automatic bias. Avoiding broad generalizations and treating individuals and situations as unique encourages accuracy and fairness in evaluation. This approach supports cognitive openness and reduces categorical thinking. Gratitude practices can also reduce judgment by shifting attentional focus toward positive qualities and contributions. Reflecting on aspects of people or experiences that are appreciated helps counter the tendency to fixate on perceived flaws. Expressing appreciation reinforces relational warmth and reduces evaluative distance. Replacing negative or dismissive thoughts with more balanced reframing further supports non-judgmental thinking. When judgmental evaluations arise, reframing them as curiosity or openness, such as acknowledging that one may not yet fully understand another person or activity, promotes psychological humility. Positive affirmations grounded in realism can further support this shift. Humility is closely linked to overcoming judgment. Recognizing personal limitations and acknowledging that everyone possesses strengths and weaknesses fosters mutual respect. Being open to feedback and alternative perspectives encourages growth and reduces defensiveness. This humility supports a balanced self-concept and more equitable evaluation of others. Focusing on personal growth rather than comparison further reduces judgmental tendencies. Directing attention toward one's own development and learning diminishes the impulse to evaluate others. Setting intentional goals for reducing judgment and monitoring progress supports accountability while allowing for gradual change. Kindness toward others and oneself reinforces this process. Engaging in acts of kindness cultivates compassion and acceptance, while self-kindness acknowledges that reducing judgment is an ongoing effort rather than a fixed achievement. Patience with oneself supports sustainability and reduces self-criticism during setbacks. Environmental influences also shape judgmental thinking. Curating social and media environments to reduce exposure to divisive or dehumanizing content can support more balanced perspectives. Mindful consumption of information encourages discernment and reduces reinforcement of judgment-based narratives. Overcoming judgment is best understood as a continuous process rather than a final state. Through awareness, empathy, education, humility, and self-compassion, individuals can cultivate greater psychological openness and relational understanding. This shift supports healthier relationships, emotional flexibility, and a more compassionate engagement with the complexity of human experience.